this special called session for the public hearing. First public hearing is required by the state of the county, 2023 millage levy. Call that the session. So first item. All right. I wasn't ready for this, but all right. This is the first of 3 public hearings the county is required to hold regarding the notice of intent to increase property taxes. There will be 2 more public hearings regarding same before the millage rate is set. The Harris County Board of Commissioners had tentatively adopted a 2023 millage rate, which will require an increase in property taxes by 2.72% in the countywide Les West Point area and by 6.60% in the West Point area. This tentative increase will result in a millage of 9.13 mills, an increase of 0.242 mills in the countywide Les West Point area. Without this tentative tax increase, the millage rate will be no more than 8.888 mills. The proposed tax increase for a home with a fair market value of $250,000 is approximately $24.20. The proposed tax increase for non-homestead property with a fair market value of $175,000 is approximately $16.94. In the West Point area, this tentative increase will result in a millage rate of 5.478 mills, an increase of 0.339 mills. Without this tentative tax increase, the millage rate will be no more than 5.139 mills. The proposed tax increase for a home with a fair market value of $175,000 is approximately $23.73. And the proposed tax increase for non-homestead property with a fair market value of $125,000 is approximately $16.95. Let's see. So the details that we're seeing here for the county is county millage before rollbacks is 10.96, less rollbacks 1.83, which gives us the county millage rate at 9.13 mills, which is what it is last year and what it is this year proposed. On the West Point millage before rollbacks, 7.31, less rollbacks, 1.83 minus, which would be a West Point County portion would be 5.478 mills. And I'll turn to you, County Manager.
Mr. Commissioner, this is a public hearing. I would just say, just open public hearing for public comments, then close the public hearing, and we'll see everybody at 6:30 tonight.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak pertaining to the proposed millage rate?
I don't understand all y'all's figures sometimes. If the mill is 9.13, was last,
State your name.
George Clark, Buster. 12905 Georgia Highway 103, West Point, Georgia. The millage is rate as last year, 9.13.
Yes.
But if my house is valued at $250,000, it's going up $24 a year tax.
Right.
Why is that?
It's the way that it's assessment. So you've got your valuation, right? So the valuations for the homes, if I'm saying this right.
If my assessment don't change,
If your
my
assessment
tax is
doesn't
still
change,
going up $24 this year?
No, it doesn't. So if your assessment hasn't changed and the county hasn't come out to assess your house, reevaluate your house.
They come out there too often and assess mine.
Well, we have to do it by state law. So it's not the
But
county
they don't
setting
do
this.
that by state law, though.
What do you
Supposed to do it every 3 years, and it don't never really happen that way.
So we can only get to a portion of the county at a time.
I just want to know about the $24 if
So
my,
no, if your valuation
Okay.
has not gone up, nobody's tax.
I just
will go up.
hadn't never really seen no government look to save taxpayers' money.
We
You know what I'm saying?
Right, but
Look
that's,
at things
2 years
to
ago.
save money
Yes.
instead of just spending money.
so 2 years ago, we went back on the millage rate. You know, we rolled it back 2 years ago, and we've kept it there since then.
Yeah.
Even with the increase of CPI at 9% that the county's having to eat with services and everything else. So it's not us. So we get a quarter, we get 25 cents on every dollar.
I understand
that is
that.
on the tax. So
But a lot
most
of the
that's going to the
projects
school.
that the county take on, I feel is a waste of money. This fire station up here in the industrial park, West Point, that place is a ghost town. It has never
It's
developed the
growing.
way it should.
But it's growing exponentially.
I was just up there in the last few weeks, a couple of times. It's dead. I don't see no growth.
There is on houses in
Hey,
itself.
Buster, I can speak to that on that one up there. That station alone is gonna pick up approximately 700 to 800 calls a year in that area, which is where we're gonna be calls there. And then all the citizens that are up there will have that, and we'll be back up to West Point.
Right.
So it will, that, we,
a voluntary station?
no, what EMS is housed 24/7,
It's gonna be manned,
but fire department is volunteer.
is volunteer. But right now, their ISO is at a 10,
Right.
which is the highest you can have.
Right.
So any kind of relief up there would help everyone living in that area.
But the
Absolutely.
county works just like WOW Network, WOW, internet and telephone. WOW would not update our service where I'm at, because there's about 5 houses on about a half-mile stretch of road there. But they can update right over there on Lick Skillet Road, Quail Hollow Road and all, but they can't update this last half a mile to us. We can't get water. The county ran water around Lick Skillet Road already long years ago. And the county installed it itself, the last little leg out to 103.
Right.
There's not about 4 or 5 houses right in there. There's 5 or 6 houses down my leg of road. There's about a 2-mile gap from there to the 1-mile marker going to the interstate.
Okay.
We don't have fire protection, water fire protection. County says you gotta have more rooftop. That's BS right there.
More
Rooftops don't mean nothing to me. You should be looking after the citizens. They're not looking after the citizens.
I guarantee you, all the commissioners sitting up here, the first thing we think about are our citizens, our neighbors. So, kind of to your point, 2 points. So Randy, on the water in itself, can we look into that water line on that stretch that he's talking about and give us some more information on that? And then 2, on the WOW stuff, I can hit you up on the side on that one. I can probably help you out on that one too. But as far as when it goes to the water, we're gonna look into that, and I wanna see what those responses were to you back in the day and get a new response for today about what that water extension, if there's a possibility, and what it would take. I'll find that out for you myself. But I know from the commissioners here, I promise you, the first thing we're doing is looking to save money for the county, because we're taxpayers too, first and foremost. We got kids in school, just like everybody else. Anybody else want to speak for? Okay.
Booth McKinney. That's Booth. Some people spell it different, so. 5254, no, sorry, 311 Shagbark Trail, Fortson. Checking about my old address in Columbus. We just recently got our assessment for our tax bill and everything, and we noticed that the school tax is more than the county tax.
Yes.
So why is that? Why is the school needing more money and everything to operate? Are we building more schools? Are we paying higher teachers' wages? Just how's the money allocated toward that more than what it has been?
That's the way that it breaks down. So 3/4 of your tax of the millage rate or the property tax goes to the schools. The county itself for services gets 1/4 of it. So,
Right.
so 25 cents on every dollar goes towards the county, 75% go towards the school. So as far as speaking towards the schools on what they're building and what they're doing, I can't. I would urge people to go to the school board meetings and be able to, ask the same questions, because most people have the viewpoint that the county taxes or the county in itself that's pushing these taxes.
Right.
It's not. It's cooperation of both, from the school board to the county commission, but not as many people go to the school, board meetings.
Right.
To be able to, bring up their concerns and, their grievances on that side as well. So, when it comes to services on the county, 25 cents on the dollar, on what we do spend it on to try to keep the county up, to be able to, do our mowings, that
Right.
we can in the county, to be able to keep our trash picked up, to keep water coming, trying to expand water, trying to expand, where we can to get commercial and to help offset, property taxes. We're trying to do that every single day, and that's one thing I promise you. I have calls with these guys sitting up here and Miss Susan and Rob that would be here almost every day, every other day, talking to them about different ways that we can approach the county, be able to, bring our property taxes down. We've got to have commercial, first and foremost.
Right, exactly.
Commercial is the only thing that's going to offset our property taxes. And me as a homeowner, mine, my property tax went up again, and I'm over $4,000, on my house.
I did too.
So, it's to the point to where we've got a lot of citizens in this county that are older, that are on fixed income, and I get that it's relative for everybody, but the thing of it is it's just, that's the way it is now, and the only way that we're gonna offset that is we've got to get commercial in this county. So that's what we're planning on, that's what we collectively have been trying our best to work on.
So until that happens and everything, you're probably never gonna see a discount on taxes for senior citizens.
I promise you, that would be a goal, that is the goal.
Right.
And also for, honestly, not just for, senior citizens, I'd like to see it for disabled vets too.
Right,
That
true.
we have in the county.
True.
So if they're 100%, disabled in the county, my opinion is, we need to look at that too. So it's just, we've got to get there, but to get there, it's definitely not just rooftops.
So
at all.
how are we gonna attract new businesses? I mean,
We've got to get the infrastructure in. So get infrastructure in, you've got to have one, honestly, you're not going to bring in bigger businesses, let's say, for instance, like a supermarket or, something like that, that's going to bring in that revenue without sewer. We've got to have some kind of sewer.
Right.
Into that, not for necessarily just for, let's say, development case for rooftops, but we've got to have it for, commercial. Commercial can't run off a septic tank.
right,
So we've got to have that. We got to have those discussions. There's a lot of infrastructure that we're, working with the county manager on and some outside groups to try to figure out what is it going to take to get our county up to speed, because we're behind the 8 ball,
Right.
in my opinion. So, we've got to focus on commercial. And, I'm just like everybody else in the county. I don't want to see a ton of rooftops in this county. I really don't.
right.
So I want to see more commercial come in to help offset that, because if not, we will tax people
Yeah,
to death.
exactly. And it's gonna keep going up, keep going up. The problem, another problem you're gonna find out is where you're gonna put these commercial stuff at, because most of the prime spots and everything are now taken up by housing and stuff, especially out there off of 315 and things like that. So you gotta find the area where you can do that
Right.
stuff at.
And well, to be honest with you, exit 19, where you're seeing that growth right now, everybody, okay, even I had my own opinions about it when it first came up, but it's almost like throwing a baby out with the bathwater now. It's ours. We own it.
Right,
How can we make it the most successful that we possibly can? To me, it's going to be able to sit there and help promote growth in commercial
Right.
at that location. It's going to have to be. That's what's going to me, I think that's what's going to help us bring in revenue to offset our, homeowner
Right.
taxes on single-family homes. We've got to have commercial. We've got to.
yeah.
Because it is, the state mandates us that we have to keep our valuations up to par. If we don't, across the board, if we don't, they fine us per parcel of land. So it's not the county that's pushing this, it's the state. We're mandated by the state to do it. Now, I would suggest go to the school board, go talk to the school, and if, I hate to say it, but if social media would take that aggression out and actually come to our commission meetings and go to school board meetings, I promise you'd probably see a difference.
I'll do that.
But, reach out to your commissioners. We're here, we talk, and if there's anything that I can do, and I feel like the other commissioners feel the same way, I don't care what district it is, we'll help.
I'll help. I mean, if you need me for anything, I'll be glad to help.
Anybody that's willing to open a business.
Fortunately, I'm retired. I'm not gonna open up a business.
Just to give you a food for thought, because this is something, when I started getting in this, I was trying to understand it. Columbus is a lot less because they have so much business. But in comparison, Meriwether County's millage rate, which I know they're probably voting on it, is 13.034. And Talbot County's millage rate is 17.440. So just to give you an idea where we are as a better understanding to a 9.13 versus Meriwether, who has no industry. I'm just stating, Talbot has no industry. So, we're, 4 under Meriwether and almost half of Talbot County in our millage rate.
Thanks.
Thank you, Boo.
Is that just a county tax, not including the school tax, Scott?
Would you know that, Wayne?
Meriwether and I'm not sure without.
Yeah.
That should be included.
That's just what's listed by the state. That's what's listed by the state
Should
on
be
them.
inclusive.
So
I don't know if that includes that school tax.
It
I'll
should
find
be.
out.
I hope so.
I think it's just the county only.
yeah,
Right.
I think it's county only, because I was looking into that for some folks,
All right, is there anybody else that would like to? Do you want to get up, Wayne, as the tax assessor?
Only if you'd like me to.
If you would, just explain it to everybody, so if they look at it for later tonight, they have some questions. Kind of explain, what we went over, if you don't mind, in layman terms, as far as what the rollback means, millage rate before rollback, less rollback, and then the millage rate in itself.
What the rollback rate is simply a calculation that is made so that the county would not collect any more taxes off of properties that were revalued. What it does is take the amount of revaluation and put it into a millage rate form as a rollback, so that if you went to that, then you would be collecting no more taxes on the revaluation part. You still get all your taxes on your new growth, your new homes and all of that. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't really equally distribute that. If you roll it back, what happens is those that had increases in assessment get a little relief, but they're not back to where they were. But those that didn't have any sort of increase in their assessments, they're paying even less than they did the year before, because the millage rate is lower. The good thing about this year, and it may or may not be there next year, is anyone that has a homestead exemption will be getting the homeowners tax relief grant that was issued by Governor Kemp this year. So it can give you anywhere up to about a $480 tax bill relief for this year. It's strictly $18,000 of assessment that will come off of your fair market value, your assessed value, to give you a break on your taxes this year. But what we need to remember is if we don't get it next year, it doesn't necessarily mean that we went up on the taxes. It could be that you're just not getting the grant for next year. And we don't know if it'll be there until next year. But it does give people some relief this year for that. But the rollback rate it was put in place back in 1999 when they did the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. It was enacted by the state legislation, and what it did was people were complaining that even though the county wasn't raising the millage, their taxes were going up, and it was based on valuations. But that's something that the assessor's office has no choice but to do, is to stay in line with the market. In the years that I've been here, over the 20-some-odd years, we've seen property values go up and down, just based upon the sales. And we look at these sales every single year along with the state of Georgia. The Department of Audits gets every sale that comes through our office, they get it as well. And they look at the sales versus the values as well, and they expect us to be at a certain percentage of those sales. And if we're not, as you mentioned earlier, we could actually eventually be fined for not being where we need to be on the property. So we don't have a choice in that. We have to look at what properties are selling for, how much they're selling for, and we have to react not just to those individual properties, but to other properties that are around it. For instance, we do neighborhood revaluations, whereas we may have a dozen sales in a neighborhood, but there may be, 200 parcels in there. Well, we're going to raise all 200 of them or lower them based upon whatever the sales prices are. So that's why we have to do that. But all of this is put in place for the taxpayers, and they do it to try to make things a little clearer, but sometimes it's as clear as mud. So the way this works out. So anyway, if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to. Yes, sir.
I had one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Remind us, how many properties were on a percentage basis?
On a percentage basis, this year we revalued had changes in value of about 20%.
Okay.
Last year we had about 70% of the properties.
And why was that?
We did the outlying properties last year that were not necessarily in neighborhoods, and we changed our cost factors last year as well. So that changed more properties last year, and so this year we didn't do as many of them because we got so many last year. You mentioned and Mr. Clark mentioned earlier that the state suggests that you do about a third of the county each year. In theory, that's fine, but it doesn't often work out that way. If we were to do a third of the county each year, we'd probably need a few more appraisers to be able to do that, to be honest with you. So what happens is we may go 3 or 4 years without changing values in some areas. But if they're having sales in areas, which we do in Harris County, all over the county, we're gonna change values almost every year if we have sales coming in, because we still have to be at that number for the Department of Audits. So it's just according to what's going on. And like I said, though, last year, things had gotten so that we needed to change our cost system. We couldn't get to the values. So we changed the per square foot cost of what it cost to build properties and things like that. And so that kind of brought everybody up. And so the majority of the, and when I say 70% change, that's basically 100% of the housing. Because we have a lot of rural property that doesn't have structures on it. So just about everyone that has structures on their property got a change in their values last year. So,
Right, because I've noticed, if you just look at the sales across the county in itself right now, even for smaller homes, 1,000, 1,200 square feet, they're selling anywhere from $160 to $185 a square foot.
yes, sir, that's correct.
And, you know, I know whenever I bought my house, it was nowhere near that cost. So, you know, that's even living in a subdivision that offers amenities. So it's, the cost of living is just skyrocketing across the board, from grocery stores to, you know, just your property tax. So definitely, we feel the pain like everybody else does. So, you know, I appreciate y'all's work and appreciate you explaining that for us.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, follow up on him?
Sure. You want to come up so everybody can hear?
Two questions, really. On the sale prices of the home, I mean, because they keep fluctuating up and down and everything, ever since COVID hit and everything, of course, prices have been going up and stuff like that. So are you looking at that on a weighted average, everything as far as the sales price goes, when you do your tax evaluation? Are we just taking, are we looking at, well, we need to do a third here, a third here, a third here? I know that doesn't necessarily the way it works all the time, but, you know, how are we?
We're not using a weighted average
Okay.
or anything like that. What we're basically using is price per square foot.
Okay.
With similar amenities.
Which is going to
Yes, sir, that's
increase because of the supplies and
Yes.
everything of building the house.
that's
All right, so second question, on the $480 tax credit that the governor's getting, where is that on the tax bill? Because we got our tax bill, I don't remember seeing that tax
You
credit.
didn't get a tax bill. You got an assessment.
Okay, so
That was
well,
sent out by office. That's right, it'll be on your tax bill
Okay.
that comes from the tax commissioner. And they sent, Wanda, you send those out usually in,
They're going out the end of September.
okay, all right,
and that's where you'll
See
see
it.
it. In fact, they specifically would not allow us to put it on the assessment notices. So, we would have liked to put it there so people could see it, but nevertheless, it will be on your tax.
so is this just a one-time thing for
It's
the
a
government?
Yes, sir.
One
No,
government,
It's a one-time thing until it
happens again, until
Yes,
you,
sir, that's
okay,
right.
all right, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Well, in that case, that's the, I don't want to do that. So, that concludes this 11 o'clock, special hearing, public hearing, and there'll be another one tonight at 6:30.